we send a strong message to America. Tonight, we will come for this candlelight vigil in honor of the Voting Rights Act, in honor of the Honorable John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, in honor of sending a message to the Senate that we need to pass the Voting Rights Act, sending a message to America that the Congressional Black Caucus has not forgotten the importance of how many people died, marched, got arrested. So today, we can come down these steps of the United States Capitol so we can look to the Senate and let every news media report that we are saying to them, pass the Voting Rights Act. And so tonight, I light this candle to let America know that the CBC is not only fighting for voting rights, but calling on the Senate to do their job. 4 Republican administrations have reauthorized the Voting Rights Act. Tonight, we're sending more than a message. The time to act is now. Pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And now I yield to our Democratic Caucus Chair, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries. We will then come in seniority order. The members will say their names, and then I light the candle.
Hakeem Jeffries, Chair of the House Democratic Caucus. I light this candle because we support protecting the integrity of our democracy and the right to vote. I light this candle because our vote is a response to police violence, anti-black sentiments, and because change starts at the polls. And I light this candle because protecting voting rights and ensuring the integrity of our system is central to our democracy and our struggle for a more perfect union.
We're doing this by seniority? This is one time you're going to be...
Introduce it.
It
gives me great pleasure to introduce someone who needs no introduction. It gives us great pleasure that tonight the Speaker of the House said to us, I will stand with you on these steps to speak out for the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act. Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing us together this evening. I'm very honored to light this candle because I stand with the Congressional Black Caucus and thank them for their continuing championing of civil and voting rights. And I light this candle in honor of my dear friend, John Robert Lewis, whose name adorns the Voting Rights Advancement Act. I'm going to light both of them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I am Eddie Bernice Johnson, and I light this candle because my dear friend, John Lewis said, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act today.
I'm Sanford Bishop, the 2nd District of Georgia, the home of John Robert Lewis. I light this candle because your vote is your voice, and we will sit here by your voice, and we will defend it at all costs.
go through the time? Bobby Scott, 3rd District of Virginia, and I light this candle in honor of civil rights icon and voting rights pioneer Fannie Lou Hamer. Go ahead. We'll light them together.
I'm Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Houston, Texas. I light this candle because even though President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law in 1965, barring barriers to political participation by racial and ethnic minorities, prohibiting any election practice that denies the right to vote on account of race, and requiring jurisdictions with a history of discrimination in voting to get federal approval for changes in their election laws before they can take effect 56 years later, and we are still fighting the same battles today. That is unconscionable. Pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Act now. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated, as we all believe, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must rectify the justice. We light this candle. Ashe.
I am Danny Davis from the 7th District of Illinois, and I light this candle to clear the path to the voting booth for black people and people of color and all people. I light this candle to clear the path for another Carol Moseley Braun, who became the first black woman elected to the United States Senate, and of course Barack Obama, who became the first African American elected as president of these great United States of America.
I'm Congressman Gregory Meeks from the 5th Congressional District of New York, and I light this candle for those who unwaveringly stood up against water hoses, dogs, billy clubs, and tear gas. So we stand today, standing up for voting rights today, tomorrow, and every day until voting rights is everybody's right in the United States of America.
I am Barbara Lee from the 13th Congressional District of California. I light this candle because restrictive voter suppression laws disproportionately impacts black voters and voters of color.
I'm Congressman G.K. Butterfield, chairman of the Elections Subcommittee of the Committee on House Administration, also representing the gerrymandered 1st Congressional District of North Carolina. I light this candle because the House passed this bill 105 days ago. The Senate hasn't even taken a single vote. America needs them to act. Not 50, not 51, not 60. We need 100 senators to act, and act now. This is important. Let's pass it, get it to the president's desk for his signature.
I'm Emmanuel Cleaver. I represent Missouri's 5th Congressional District. I light this candle to challenge voting restrictions. It's not just a brown or black issue. Our very democracy is at stake.
I'm Gwen Moore, representing the 4th Congressional District of Wisconsin. I light this candle rather than to curse the dark, in the hopes that the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which the House passed on August 24th, 2021, will be taken up by the United States Senate so that, that our democracy can realize itself.
I'm Yvette Clark of the 9th District of New York, that's Central and South Brooklyn. And I light this candle to end voting discrimination that disenfranchises people of color, the elderly, low-income people, transgendered people, and people with disabilities. It is time to pass the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act and do it, as President Obama would say, right away.
I'm Congressman Hank Johnson, representing the 4th District of Georgia, right beside the 5th District of Georgia, represented by my friend and mentor, John Lewis. And I light this candle after the January 6th assault on this citadel and our democracy. We cannot stand silent. Our democracy is fragile, and we must pass provisions such as the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act to fortify our democracy against future attack.
I'm Congressman Andre Carson from Indiana 7th Congressional District. I light this candle for the lives lost fearlessly fighting for our rights as Americans, especially as Black Americans. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
I'm Congresswoman Terry Sewell, and I proudly represent Alabama's 7th Congressional District, home of Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, and my hometown of Selma. I light this candle because of the sacrifices of John Robert Lewis and the 600 brave protesters marching for justice over 56 years ago in my hometown of Selma, Alabama, which brought us the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But old battles have become new again as we see state legislatures across this country instituting more restrictive voter laws. We need federal oversight. We need to restore to its full protections the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So I light this candle in memory of John Robert Lewis, and I demand that this Senate pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
My name is Robin Kelly, and I proudly represent the 2nd Congressional District of Illinois. And as one of the 20 to 25 people that were on my hands and knees on January 6th, hoping to get out alive, I light this candle to let the Senate know it is time to pass the John Lewis Rights Advancement Act. Thank you.
I'm Mark Vesey, Congressman for the 33rd Congressional District, Dallas-Fort Worth. I light this candle because the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act outlines factors that courts must consider when hearing challenges to voting practices, such as the extent of any history of official voting discrimination in states like Texas or political subdivisions.
I'm Congresswoman Alma Adams, representing the great state of North Carolina's 12th District. I light this candle because John R. Lewis said that the vote is precious. It is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have, and a democratic society, we must use it. Pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and grant our people the power to be heard.
I'm Bonnie Watson Coleman. I represent the 12th Congressional District in the state of New Jersey. I light this candle to defend our democracy from assault and to ensure that elections are fair and they are free and they are available to all of us.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I represent the 3rd Congressional District in Pennsylvania. I light this candle because it's time for the Senate to stay and do their job. Pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advance Act.
What's your name?
Dwight Evans from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I'm Benny Thompson. I represent the 2nd District of Mississippi. I light this candle to let America know the CBC is not only fighting for voting rights, but call on the Senate to do their job. 4 Republican administrations have reauthored the Voting Rights Act. Tonight, we are sending a message. The time for action is now. Pass the John Roberts Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act now.
I'm Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, representing the state of Delaware, the first state on this Delaware Day. I light the candle for the students who are gathered here tonight in support of the vigil and the young people across this country and their support for the right to vote. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act for our future.
I'm Representative Anthony Brown from Maryland, and tonight I represent the tens of millions of black Americans who have served in our armed forces, who have died for our country in furtherance of the principles of democracy, and who believe firmly that voting rights and equality are sacred in the United States of America.
I'm Donald McEachin, representing Virginia's 4th Congressional District. I light this candle for all the blood spilled, sacrifices made, and lives lost to achieve this fundamental democratic right. Pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act now.
I am Congresswoman Lucy McBath from Georgia's 6th Congressional District. I light this candle for the reauthorization of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which is long overdue and America is waiting.
I'm Joe Neguse, Colorado's 2nd Congressional District, and I light this candle because in the immortal words of Fannie Lou Hamer, we want to change in this society, in America, because you see, we can no longer ignore the facts. It is time to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Not next year, not next month, not next week. Here and now.
My name is Ayanna Presley, and I'm the Congresswoman representing the Massachusetts 7th Congressional District. I light this candle because, as John R. Lewis stated, even though the truth can't be denied or erased, it can be systemically obscured, strategically misinterpreted, and hidden from mainstream comprehension. We cannot let that happen. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act today.
I'm Kwesi Mfume of Maryland's 7th Congressional District. I light this candle tonight to protect the 15th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. I light this candle tonight so that people who look like me could be full participants in our society. And I light this candle tonight because the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any individual state on the account of race, color, or previous condition or servitude.
I'm Congresswoman Nikema Williams, representing the seat that was once held by Congressman John Lewis, Georgia's 5th Congressional District. I light this candle because the House passed the John Lewis Voting Rights Act 105 days ago. It is time for the Senate to act.
My name is Jamal Bowman. I represent New York's 16th District. I light this candle for the hundreds of lives lost at the hands of police brutality. And if we really, truly care about preserving and saving our democracy, we must pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act immediately.
My name is Troy Carter, proudly representing Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District. I light this candle because we have suffered through grandfather clauses, poll taxes, literacy tests, fraud and intimidation to keep us from the polls. Yet we stand, demanding the Senate pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, Advancement Act, to protect all people's right to vote.
I am Congresswoman Shontel Brown, proudly representing Ohio's 11th Congressional District and the newest member of the Congressional Black Caucus. I light this candle because we need to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and ensure the freedom to vote for all of us and the freedom to vote for every American. I light this candle because attacks on voting rights are attacks on all of our freedom.
Thank you. This closes our candlelight service. I want to thank all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus for coming down these steps, taking a stance in honor of John R. Lewis, in honor of all of those who came before us, fighting for voting rights. Thank you.
Good job, good job.
We're going to do a quick photograph on the